What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with Marvel Strike Force's overview here of the Dark Dimension 6. Now that I've only completed for the second time, unlocking Super Skrull himself, the best character in all of Marvel Strike Force. So guys, I cannot state how important this character is in the game. Getting his unlock is definitely going to be one of the most impactful changes to your account. In today's video, I want to talk about the best teams and synergies that you should be using or considering going through the Dark Dimension 6 run, but also thinking ahead for Dark Dimension 7, now knowing that there is going to be a new mythic legendary section. Obviously, we need to be mindful of that, and how is that going to impact obviously the characters we can choose. But first and foremost, before I go into the character overview, guys, I just wanted to share some insight of the importance and the relevance of Super Skrull, especially if you guys are in the arena meta. We're seeing more and more of these arena events currently right now. We have obviously with the Lizard unlock. It's absolutely crazy how much of a difference Super Skrull can make in your arena. So I mean, for example, I am significantly lower in TCP compared to many of these folks here, and I'll just grab a couple of them to show you. But just for reference, my total combat power is 34 million. It was lower before I unlocked Super Skrull upgraded, right? But I mean, I am in the top 10 here with folks that have easily 10, 15, 20 million TCP higher than myself, and it's all because of this one single character that's able to catapult me up. I've noticed as well, like even before I fully unlocked my big boy Apocalypse, I was doing just fine in these rankings. I look at the 74 million. I was doing just fine in these rankings with baby Apocalypse, because really the key differentiator of holding these top rankings, and especially going into 2024, is Super Skrull himself, right? It's the defense and how much value he adds to your full team synergy. Even with me having a significantly lower defense here, 1.7 million compared to everyone else here, I think most of them were like close to 2 million. It's just absolutely insanity, guys. So this is a better example: 1.7 compared to 2.1, 2 million defenses, 2.3. I'm obviously not going to move up any higher because my team, I haven't touched my team in so long in terms of the power level, but the key differentiator of holding these top ranking is really having a Super Skrull, and it's going to be a battle of the Super Skrulls until we see another arena changing character that's going to shake up the meta. But in the meantime, it looks like it's holding true, and that's why we need to be pushing towards unlocking Super Skrull as soon as possible, especially if you guys are interested in building towards Dark Dimension 6. But now, just to give you that context, guys, let's talk about some of the best characters and teams. Starting off with the global section, in my honest opinion, after completing the second run, this is still hands down the hardest section of all of Dark Dimension 6. So that's why it's very, very important that you start things off right and making sure that you have the right teams and synergies. But obviously, there are characters that are going to make your runs much more smooth. It goes without saying, Apocalypse is hands down the no-brainer. He needs to come into the global nodes. Honestly, he just creates a night and day difference. Even having his baby form, you don't have to have him fully upgraded like myself. I went through both runs with the baby Apocalypse, and he still had amazing value because of what he can bring and the amount of damage that he can provide against the enemies. Now, a different character I did bring in this run that did make it a lot more smooth, in my honest opinion, was Spider Weaver. Used a little bit more Mystic gear, but obviously having her stuns, being able to generate the charges to prevent damage, I thought Spider Weaver was exceptional. It was much more smooth having her replace actually Captain Carter in my second run. So in my first run, it was really good as just minimizing materials, but now there is less emphasis on characters like Captain Carter because we know Rebirth is on its way out with the new Hive Mind team coming. So characters like Carter may not have as much value anymore, but having said that, I still use Captain America. His defense up, his energy. Is he a best in slot? I don't think so, but there's still amazing value if you guys have already built him up. And because of him being that core Avenger character team, I don't see them going away in the future. There's always going to be reworks coming along the way. And that kind of segues to my choice here, Black Widow. I still love what she brought to the table, even though she's not in the current meta. The fact that she was really cheap, she's a skill character where we have wiggle room, I still highly would recommend. But now there are some different options with the changing meta and the newly added characters, right? I think Gambit is definitely a good option now. He has a great ability block, his passive pings and damage, and knowing now part of this Extreme X-Men team that's been reworked, obviously there's more value to be had for the raids, and building up higher is actually going to make your raids even easier too. So that has completely changed it, as well as being part of the Unlimited X-Men team, who are still a pretty decent team. They haven't fallen out of the meta, but you can still use them as a top 10, top 15 slot in. Quicksilver, without a doubt, I think You know, I'm still slowly building him up with my golden resources, but I think next Apocalypse, he's probably the second or third most important character for global. The only downside is just the amount of investment in Mystic gear. I think his importance has definitely gone up now, knowing that we have this new Mythic section in Dark Dimension 7 where you can't use Apocalypse. He's definitely a priority target in the future if you have the Mystic gear to spare. And then same with Doctor Doom, guys. I think Doctor Doom is a very, very good option now for Dark Dimension 6 because we know he's part of the Mythic, which means, you know, characters like Doctor Doom and Apocalypse likely need to be built up. And that means you're getting more value if you have these characters already built up for Dark Dimension 6, which make your runs even smoother. And then we know, actually, the Pegasus team, right? Iron Man Infinity War, Darkhawk, Ironheart, MK2, we got Rescue here. I mean, they're all characters that are actually very good right now in the incursion raids, and you're going to get value for them if you bring them up, but that's the only thing, right? They're all tech, so just something to be mindful of if you're going and planning to go that route. You're going to be taking a heavy dip in the tech gear, but yeah, very, very good characters. Previously in my past Dark Dimension 6 run, I brought in Nemesis. I don't have regrets because he is making my raids easier, but as we go higher into incursion, you know, obviously Dev Seed falling out of the meta, and then, like I said earlier, Rebirth is definitely falling out of the meta now. So yeah, these are some of the best strong options, guys, that I would recommend personally. They all make sense right now, and from my own experience anyways, they can make your runs even smoother if you consider some of them and making the best of your materials as well. Next up, we have the Cosmic section, and in my honest opinion, guys, this was argued to be the second most difficult section of the Dark Dimension 6 run, but to be quite honest, I didn't find I had issues just because I was able to actually get through the boss node with that passive hack that Kang had, right? So, you know what? I'll put in the link in the description below if you guys are interested, but it just saves you like 2 or 3 attempts if you can do it just right, where Kang's passive triggers and therefore Apocalypse does not gain the immunity and you can actually target him and control him. So I was able to do that effectively. But yeah, other than that, I thought Cosmic was very, very smooth, considering I actually brought in Ravager Stitcher in my first run. So I can't say this enough, guys. I love this uses of him just because with him being so cheap and out of the way. Obviously the uniques kind of costed me a bit, but that's all right because I wasn't going for big Apocalypse anyways. But without a doubt, there's some definite locks that we can consider for sure. Kestrel makes a really good sense now because of the fact that you know, she's required for a big Apocalypse as well. Her being part of that Mythic, Dark Dimension 7 is going to make a lot of sense now going forward because of her actually being slotted in as one of the best characters for that section. Next, Apocalypse and Dormammu and Doctor Doom, they're all part of that Mythic section. So now building her up for Dark Dimension 6 just makes all the more sense, and part of the incursion raid team for Pegasus. So I mean, there's just check marks everywhere for her. An absolute lock. Kang the Conqueror, one of the best characters in the game. I mean, he's just a must-have for this section. Turn rewind, the barrier clear, his passive attacks, oh my goodness. Like, he just does it all, and he's also one of the best tech characters in the game, if not the best. Super Skrull himself, you can bring him in if you completed the first run. He makes the Cosmic section an absolute joke, where you can basically one-shot or two-shot most of the nodes. But if you guys don't have him, rest assured, that's why we're going through this list. Val is probably the most important character for the Cosmic node, so make sure you guys have her. The fact that she can revive and bring back 2 characters, the ability block that, you know, impacts all adjacent enemies, the value she has, her exposure, just everything, honestly. Make sure you guys are taking advantage of her. And now that she's actually farmable with the red stars, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be bringing her up. And also part of the meta being the Bifrost team. Just, again, similar to Kestrel, check marks all across the board. Very likely bringing her into Dark Dimension 7 because of the value and, again, that importance of being the most important character for the Cosmic section. We got Photon here. That I brought into my first run, and I think I only had her at 3 or 4 yellow stars. So obviously her being farmable now kind of changes that importance. But keep in mind, guys, you know, the Secret Defenders meta has fallen off in terms of, you know, Photon being part of that team, just because Super Skrull now takes basically her place. So just something to be mindful of. Having said that, I still find that, you know, her adjacent blinds and slows were really, really good. She had the passive attacks and pings with her passive, and her ultimate with the devastating damage and offense down still was, in my opinion, pretty helpful. But she's just not a best in-slot character, but I love the fact that she's bio and she was also Cosmic, so kind of helping my materials and management of that, but still a good character. I just wouldn't consider her a best option because now you can actually think about the future. For example, Dormammu, in my honest opinion, can easily take Photon's place because we know that he's going to be one of the Mythic required characters. Mind you, him and Dr. Doom are going to be sharing a lot of the Mystic gear, so just something to be mindful of. We may have to, be strategic in how we want to manage this, but if you're having issues with Cosmic, I mean, Dormammu brings a lot of healing. He brings in a stun, and all the characters gaining a revive. I mean, there's a lot of value you bring him in, and also now with him being slotted in as that Mythic section for Dark Dimension 7, definitely some considerations in the future. Yeah, I would still recommend, honestly, Ravager Stitcher in the first run. But other than that, guys, that's what I would conclude here for the majority of the Cosmic sections. I would definitely not recommend the Eternals anymore. I would not recommend nowhere characters where we previously did before because they have fallen off the meta. And now that we know Sinister Six can also be used in place of them for a legendary unlock, they have definitely dipped in value in what you can do. So I think Nova's still a great character, but Nowhere is definitely on the way out. So just something to be mindful of, guys. But those are some of the best Cosmic characters now. And my goodness, this used to be such a difficult section, but with all the recent additions to the Superior and Sinister Six reworks, this section probably became one of the easiest. So I mean, similar to what we've seen with both Global and the Cosmic section, Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes is basically the core and engine of the City team. Make sure you have him. It absolutely makes no sense not to bring him in. Mind you, he does have a lot of Mystic gear as well, but he's relatively cheap, still average. His ability block, his devastating debuffs and trauma that he can land on the enemies, and the fact that he gains turn meter upon any kind of bleed synergy, I mean, it just makes sense. He's going to completely crush the City nodes going forward, I think, even in Dark Dimension 7. So absolutely build him up if you guys haven't already. He's easily the most important character. Having said that, you want to build a team around him to make sure he definitely shines. Miss Marvel, Harlight definitely makes sense because with her being in the Secret Defenders meta, this arena team is still likely staying afloat for the next few months here. So making her, gear tier 18 in conjunction with Robbie probably makes the most sense. Those two are character locks. I personally didn't need it because I already brought in some previous upgrades. So at the time of the release, it just didn't make sense for myself. Also, I had a mutant gear constraint. So just something to be mindful of there. But now we can talk about some of the new revisions and additions, right? If I could go back, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change my team, but I know that these are better options now if you guys are building up this team. Vulture easily makes the most sense now with him being a city tech. Again, utilizing a resource that's not used as much in Dark Dimension. The turn meter rewind, the fact that his Sinister 6, Superior 6 team is a top 5 team in the game now, it really does make sense to build this up. Another good one is Craven. He's got a little bit more crowd controlling aspects, and he can really support the team with the debuffs in conjunction with the bleeds that feel into Robbie Reyes' passive and helping the rest of the team, gain that offensive output. I still think 2099 is a good option, to be honest, just because he's also a City Bio character and, very cheap in materials, obviously, has bleeds, has the ability block, a devastating ultimate that can actually inflict a boatload of debuffs with the slow, just really benefits Robbie. But obviously, if you guys are, trying to make strategic investments here, characters, you can round out the rest of this Sinister 6, Superior 6 with Lizard as well to provide the main protector role. So honestly, can't go wrong there. I can definitely see the value now that this Sinister 6 team is added. Personally, for myself, I went with Cloak, Big Time Spider-Man, and Shang-Chi. All great additions in my honest opinion, but I will admit that, obviously they don't really have a too strong of an importance in the game modes outside of Dark Dimension 6 right now. Shang-Chi, his Heroes for Hire team can still be a decent war defense team, but honestly speaking, they don't really do much else. So I wanted to take advantage of the value there. I think Big Time was really good at that time too because he's still part of a very decent offensively based arena team. But again, his Infestation team is more of a defensive war team. So both of them are kind of traps, right? So just something to be mindful of. Obviously, I love the fact that he was very, very cheap. But if I can go back now, the Superior 6, Sinister 6 team made the most sense. And I brought in Cloak personally because I did have a lot of Mystic gear. But going back to it now that we have Robbie, yeah, definitely would not make the decision. Because we have so much better characters in City. It just makes the most sense to take advantage of the ones I've just talked about there. And other than that, guys, these other ones down here, unless we get reworks, I think Mysterio can be very, very good, but he just costs too much materials, guys. Avoid that trap. He can be a huge investment that can cripple your progression in Dark Dimension 6 if you go that route. We have some good options up here that can easily get the job done, and it's going to be very, very smooth. Okay, so last but not least, the legendary section. Now we've got a lot of good information in terms of what has worked and what hasn't. So personally for myself, guys, I actually had a very, very high value team in the sense that they were cheap and they actually still got the job done. So personally, I brought in Shuri And I also had the fortunate opportunity to bring in Phoenix. By the way, I hope she secretly is getting a rework. Hopefully with Xavier released in the future, definitely there's going to be some value there if that's to be had. But yeah, I actually did not have an issue with these two characters up until the last node. So I think obviously there's some key notable mentions here, and especially now with Green Goblin Classic being added, definitely strongly consider. First and foremost, I think Black Cat's easily the most important or second most important legendary character. Absolutely bring her in. The skill materials is one of the least utilized in Dark Dimension 6. So her debuffs, the amount of crowd controlling she brought in, and her bleeds, her damage was absolutely beautiful. You got to bring her in. It makes the most sense. Nova, when he could use his abilities, he was definitely a top 3, top 2 character for all of the nodes when I went through it. However, after using his abilities, it was difficult because he couldn't really do much. Both his special and ultimate just cost so much energy. Having his respective team like Cosmo can rejuvenate that energy, but yeah, that made it difficult. But having said that, I still had a really good time with him because of his passive battlefield effect that he could provide for the team. So that was big. The barrier was good, but you need to make sure that you have a good team to surround Nova. Otherwise, he could just be a one and done, and then you're kind of left just using him to soak damage, which isn't ideal. But I still thought he was very, very good. And also keep in mind, there isn't any other legendary bio characters that we can likely bring up. So you know, I still think he's a great option. Just we know that Nowhere is falling out of the meta. Just something to consider if you guys are going forward in a few months entering Dark Dimension 6. Omega Red. Love the fact that he's such a relevant character still in these modes, but he's statistically just out of the meta. Also, he used mutant gear, which is likely going to be a constraint in 2024. So something we want to be mindful of. But my goodness, every time he could go, this guy is just a crowd controlling machine. A cost of 3 for his special, a cost of 5 for his ultimate. Both of them having ability blocks or some sort of debuff. My goodness, like I absolutely love what he can do, and as well, most of his attacks dealing the percentage-based damage, right? So in Dark Dimension 6, this is really where he shines. But he's a luxury character for sure because we know that mutant gear is going to be constrained in the future. So if you have built up and already invested in him, great. But if not, you might want to be cautious here because that mutant gear is going to be a heavy resource we need to think about. Archangel, I just brought him up here for my raid, so don't mind you, I wouldn't recommend him just because of the fact that he's more of a raid character than Dark Dimension 6, but obviously he has value. Apocalypse, Shuri, like I said, I did like the fact that she could give energy back and help Nova rejuvenate a bit more, but other than that, yeah, she was basically a lost cause. Especially, guys, keep in mind, she's a tech character for Legendary. Now, we know we have these better options, right? Green Goblin Classic, I brought him in my last run, but I did not have Doc Ock. And I think most folks are kind of undermining how important it is to have Doc Ock because of them having that superior 6 synergy, and then Doc Ock and then being able to use his special to summon, you know, a shocker to the team where it can add, you know, soaking up damage, additional energy, and so forth. Green Goblin Classic did okay by himself, but I definitely think he truly shines. If you're gonna bring him in, make sure you bring in Doc Ock because you're gonna be getting the value of the Sinister 6 and Superior 6 synergy, and as well having Dr. Octopus's supportive buffs. It makes the most sense though. I didn't really feel Green Goblin Classic by himself, to be quite honest, but he was okay. He did all right with damage, but I mean, nothing crazy. Phoenix was still, in my honest opinion, one of the best characters for my Dark Dimension 6 run, just because no matter what, even though she can get one shot, it's the amount of damage she had in her Dark Phoenix state, where her special essentially took away 20% from everyone, and that just hit like a truck every time she was summoned and brought to the battlefield. For the last node specifically, I've heard amazing things about Morgan Le Fay. I didn't get a chance to bring her up just because of the gear constraint, but she's a really, really good character for the last and final node. But yeah, other than that, guys, I got it done, obviously, here with the same 5, which was Black Cat, Nova, Omega Red, Shuri, Phoenix, plus Apocalypse. Obviously, we have access to him in the final node, but then Green Goblin Classic was the difference maker here for me in the second run. And to be quite honest, it wasn't as felt, just because maybe the lower star levels, maybe the fact that I just didn't have Doc Ock. But yeah, just feedback for you guys. Hopefully this helps you guys in your planning, that now that you can see what was done in the second run for my unlock here. But as well, yeah, overall, very exciting times. We know a lot of characters and teams are coming to the game. We need to be mindful of this new Mythic Legendary tag. But yeah, I'll keep you guys up to date if anything changes. But this is going to be a wrap for the Dark Dimension 6 review for the 2023 year. Appreciate you guys following along. Thank you so much for all your support, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.